This is Glow in the Dark Radio. The science fiction podcast, with original independent science fiction, written and performed by Mike Luoma, with music by Kevin MacLeod. The Vatican Assassin Trilogy and The Adventures of Alibi Jones by Mike Luoma are available in ebook, trade paperback, and audiobook wherever you find your books online. Get links and details at glowinthedarkradio.com. This is the Science Fiction Podcast, Glow in the Dark Radio. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma, and I have Chapter 5 of the novel Alibi Jones, as we're getting into the Chronological Omnibus. The Adventures of Alibi Jones on the podcast. Alibi has escaped from imprisonment by the reptilian aliens known as the Tecta. They threw Alibi in a cell on their planet Tectacarn after they found him stowed away on one of their ships. Alibi was on the trail of an old teacher who had disappeared, seemed to have been kidnapped by the Tecta, so he was trying to find her. In the cell he met Piccolo, who said he was trying to find his sister, who also disappeared and seemed to have been kidnapped by the Tecta. And Alibi also met Kit in the cell, a cat-like alien known as a Dakhur. The three of them are heading to the planet Junzias on a borrowed ship belonging to an acquaintance of Piccolo's who's disappeared. They're hoping to pick up the trail of the Tecta on Junzias and maybe see if they can find Piccolo's sister and Alibi's old teacher. But they don't have any charts to actually make the Transpace Jump from where they are. So Alibi Jones had to resort to math. So he's trying to figure out the Transpace Jump manually, basically. The stench on board the ship that they've borrowed is pretty hard to take, but they're putting up with it for now, although Kit has retreated to the engine room where it's not quite so bad. So when we left Alibi Jones, he was doing the math, and we'll pick up things there as we find out how the jump goes, as we get into Chapter 5 of Alibi Jones coming up on Glow in the Dark Radio. I want to say thank you to my patrons who have been, as always, very supportive in helping to keep the podcast going. I think you're getting this early, or you should be getting this early. So thank you once again for being a patron and supporting the podcast. If you're interested in finding out more about becoming a patron and, getting episodes early and stuff like that, just go to Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio, and you can sign up for $2 a month, $5 a month, or $10 a month and become a member and support Glow in the Dark Radio. And I want to let you know there is a new book out there, kind of new, sort of new, that I have called The Ancient World Around Us, which is photos and descriptions by yours truly. So this is a photo book. It's not science fiction, it's just cool pictures of places I've been, with a description giving you some historical background and such. Now, it might not be your cup of tea, since you're checking this out for the science fiction, but I figured if you get some notification about this new book, at least you know what's going on and that you don't have to check it out. Or you could. I leave that up to you. Well, that is all the book news I have. We're going to get into Chapter 5 of Alibi Jones next on Glow in the Dark Radio.
Wake up, go to work. Work. Come home. Eat dinner. Rot your brain out. Go to bed. Lather. Rinse. Repeat. Are you tired of an old humdrum life? Tired of things that just weigh you down and depress you? Wouldn't you rather just focus on things that are awesome? Tune into Nutty Bites. Find out what's awesome. Nutty Bites. nimlas.org/blog.
Now here's Chapter 5 of Alibi Jones on Glow in the Dark Radio. Alibi spends the next 2 hours calculating a jump to the outer reaches of the Junzias system. There are too many asteroids closer in to safely jump in blind. But if they jump into a distant orbit, they'll need extra fuel to make the trip from distant orbit into the closer planets like Junzias. They can skim a gas giant if he can find one in the system. Alibi's mind crackles with mental energy as he figures out how to put it all together. But the details on the outer gas giants in the Junzias system are too sketchy. This is no good, Alibi grouses. What's the matter? Piccolo asks, half asleep in the other chair on the bridge. I need additional information not available in the ship's usual systems, Alibi tells him. Do you know if your friend had any archival storage on the ship? Beats me, Piccolo answers unhelpfully. Maybe back there in one of those storage compartments? He nods at the back wall of the bridge, marked by the panels and handles of built-in storage. He had some stuff back there, extra charts, mem sticks and things. Alibi gets up and walks back to the storage bins, mounted along the back wall of the bridge, to look for memory sticks or something that might contain more stellar information. He slides open a small drawer, empty. He pulls open one of the larger, floor-level drawers. A severed arm sits in the drawer, covered in black-crusted blood, amid strings of shredded flesh, arteries, and tissue. Ugh! Alibi jumps back from the drawer. Hot bile rises up in the back of his throat as he turns away, trying not to vomit, trying not to breathe. What the fuck? Piccolo says. Alibi can't respond. Shit, Piccolo says, as he comes up behind him and sees the contents of the open drawer. Alibi manages to get out. That's an arm. He can't help but state the obvious. Oh, man, Piccolo says, with an uneasy treble in his voice. He steps up and opens the next drawer to the right. Empty. They both heave a sigh of relief. Piccolo moves down the row of drawers to the right and opens the next one. He jumps back, reflexively whipping his head away from what lies in that storage drawer. He starts coughing as he holds back an urge to throw up. Alibi can't help himself. He has to look. Somehow, knowing it will be horrid makes it easier to look inside. Whoa! Alibi gasps. The severed head of an older man stares up, lifeless, mouth open in a silent scream. The hair is matted with dried blood. Shredded trachea trail from the jagged neckline and curl back up underneath. Alibi looks away. Kronborg, Piccolo says. Did the Devriesium do this? Alibi asks. How should I know? Piccolo says. I've never seen anything like this, man. Shit's fucked up. A grim thought occurs to Alibi. What do I really know about this guy? He looks suspiciously at Piccolo. How do I know you didn't do this? Me? Piccolo responds, surprised and stunned. You think I could do something like this? I don't know. I don't even know you, Alibi says, but he's starting to lose his suspicions. You think I could tear a guy's head clean off? Piccolo protests. I ain't strong enough. The question makes Alibi look at Kronberg's severed head again. He winces, looks away. No way, Alibi admits. He looks around the bridge. Guess that explains the smell. Not entirely. Already smelled pretty bad before, Piccolo admits with a nervous laugh. Should we open up more drawers? He asks Alibi sheepishly. Shit, I guess we should. Guess we ought to clean it up, after all. They open the rest of the storage drawers built in along the walls of the bridge. About half of them are now occupied by various body parts of the late pilot, Kronborg. Alibi makes his way back to the front of the bridge and calls down to the engine room. Kit, can you come back up here? We've got a problem. The Catman meets them in the corridor outside the bridge. Alibi and Piccolo tell him what they found. They ripped him apart, Piccolo exclaims. The Devrisium, Kit explains. Devrisium justice. They make an example out of those who violate them. The Devrisium rend. Sssss. Kit lets out a soft hiss. They truly render a verdict. They execute violators, tear them apart. Then they seed them back on board their ships. Eventually, they would have left this ship in a gently decaying orbit around the port at Tiktakarn, as an example. Why only put them in half the drawers? Alibi asks. They were probably saving the rest of the space for you, Kit says, nodding at Piccolo. Piccolo gulps. Are there any EVA suits on board? Alibi asks Piccolo. How should I know? Piccolo answers defensively, shaken by what Kit has just told him. I saw a couple of EVA suits down in the engine room, Kit says. At least 2. Why? I was thinking it might be easier to clean this up in low or no G in a vacuum, Alibi explains. Then it is too bad there are none that will fit a Dakhur physique, Kit says with some satisfaction. I cannot help you. I will have to seal myself in the engine room, while you two work in a vacuum in the rest of the ship. So sorry I will not be able to help. You don't sound sorry, Alibi says with a nervous laugh of his own. How would you know? Kit says. The 3 head to the engine room. Alibi and Piccolo suit up in 2 of the 3 EVA suits Kit has found. They leave Kit in the sealed-off engine room and head for the bridge. Piccolo stops at the airlock in the corridor outside the bridge and opens the inner door. What are you doing? Alibi asks him. Opening the airlock? Piccolo answers him as if he was an idiot. Alibi walks over and knocks Piccolo's gloved hand away from the door's controls with his own gauntleted fist. Not a good idea, Alibi says. Ever hear of explosive decompression? Sounds bad, Piccolo says. Yup, bad, Alibi answers. Happens when you open an airlock wide open on a fully pressurized ship, like you were about to do. Oh, well, clear the air slowly from the bridge, let it seep out and let the lack of pressure stabilize. Piccolo closes the airlock's inside door. Gotcha! Alibi starts the slow bleed of the atmosphere when they get back to the bridge. Once the air is gone, he switches off the gravity as well. Then Alibi and Piccolo set about the grim work of collecting the remains of Kronborg, drawer by drawer. They collect his parts in 2 of the largest drawers. Alibi finds some memory cards as they work and puts those up on the pilot's seat for later reference. After they've scoured the remaining drawers and piled up the pieces, Alibi and Piccolo take the 2 filled drawers back out to the airlock and launch the remains of Kronborg into space. A small disposable rocket pushes each drawer out away from the ship and off into deep space. Shouldn't we say something? Piccolo asks Alibi. I don't know. Like what? A prayer for him or something. What was he, NCC? Alibi asks Piccolo. I have no idea. God bless you, Kronborg, Alibi prays. Whatever God you might have preferred. Amen. Amen. They repressurize the ship. Alibi and Piccolo get out of their EVA suits and head back to the bridge. I think it smells a little better, Piccolo observes. It is only a question of degree, Kit says over the comm. It is still quite horrible. I found some mem sticks when we were cleaning, Kit, Alibi tells him. I'm going to take a look through them, see if they've got the stellar mapping I need. Alibi hunkers down in the captain's chair and sorts through the extra data he recovered, looking for information on the gas giants of the Junzias system. Piccolo breaks out scrubbers and begins cleaning up the rest of the bridge while Alibi works. Alibi finally comes across the information he needs on the orbital positioning and chemical makeup of the gas giants of Junzias' system. He gets back to his calculations, double-checks them, and soon has a new Transpace point mapped out, ready to go. He calls up Kit in the engine room and breaks the news. I've got it, Kit, Alibi says over the comm. Is the Transpace drive ready? Ready to jump when you are, Kit tells him, although I am not. I've done the math and checked it twice now, I promise, Alibi tells him. I'm sure we'll be fine. Alibi adjusts the controls and checks his entries before announcing, We're jumping! They jump. Kronberg's ship flashes in and out of Transpace intact and far enough away from the nearby gas giant that Alibi feels vindicated. All right, you see, it worked, he proclaims, victorious. Never doubted you, man. Piccolo offers his congratulations. So, we are not dead? Kit notes over the comm. Good. I'm going to head us into that gas giant so the ship can scoop up some raw materials for fuel, Alibi announces. Then we can make our way in towards Junzias. Junzias was once an Eldred world. As they travel in from the distant orbit of the gas giant, Alibi focuses half his attention on entries about the planet and the Eldred in the ship's archives. He's also remembering all the times his Aunt Anita told him about the Eldred, those she called the killer blue koalas from outer space. Your father helped kill the koalas. Alibi can hear her in his head. It was only fair they were trying to wipe us out. Hey, you reading up on the planet? Piccolo asks, looking over Alibi's shoulder, interrupting his thoughts. I was listening to my aunt, Alibi tells him. In my head, he explains when Piccolo gives him a puzzled look. Oh, Piccolo says, looking a little less puzzled. She knows a lot about the Eldred, fought them in the war, Alibi tells him. She and my father helped to wipe them out. I thought the Eldred died because the ancient enemy died, you know, that frozen guy. I remember reading that in school. Dolomé. Yeah, I used to hear all about him growing up. Him and my father. BC. It was always BC this and BC that and Dolomé this and Dolomé that, Alibi complains. The Eldred's existence was somehow tied into the life of the ancient enemy, and Dolomé was the last of them. The Eldred thrived and stayed alive while he was frozen, but once he was dead, they just began dying out. So, we're going to a dead world. Not if my sources are right. Kit pipes in from the engine room, over the comm. They say the Tekta have cleaned up the world with their new wealth, but do not publicize the fact. It is not a dead world, but it is hiding. Yeah, I wonder where the Tekta are getting this new wealth, huh? Evidently the human slave trade must be pretty profitable, Alibi says with disgust. What are they going to do with her? What are they going to do with my sister? Piccolo wonders out loud. Why do they want humans anyway? It may be your similarity to the ancient enemy, Kit suggests. Your like has not been seen in the civilized universe for quite some time. Word of your discovery is still rippling across the civilized worlds, along with the news of the defeat of Dolomé and the Eldred. There may be a market further in towards the central planets. Perhaps they are selling humans to buyers of exotics on some far-off worlds. Great, Alibi says. Human beings in alien zoos and private menageries. How quaint. Miss K doesn't deserve that. No way. It is all because the Eldred were the peacekeepers, Kit says. The law enforcers. Now that they are gone, there is no one left to stop groups with power from doing whatever they like. Your old peaceful overlords, Alibi says sarcastically. We did not know how beneficial they were until they were gone, killed off because of a battle in some backwater distant part of the universe, Kit observes. Must be some inferiority complex you've got there, makes you keep disrespecting our home turf, Alibi says with a little real pride. Maybe the center has shifted. Ever consider that? You humans have no idea. Maybe the Tekta are right, Kit jokes. You do think you are much too special. You have no idea how much there is out there. Great, now you're siding with them? Absolutely not, Kit responds, playing a little with the pause. Hey, are we there yet? Piccolo asks. For some reason, it makes both Alibi and Kit break into laughter. Another 3 hours, Alibi tells him. Gah! Piccolo gasps in exasperation. Can't we go any faster? Not in this stink pot, Alibi informs him. Piccolo grumbles under his breath as he goes back to the other chair on the bridge, sits down, and pouts. That was Chapter 5 of Alibi Jones, part of the Adventures of Alibi Jones Chronological Omnibus on Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. Well, they jumped into the Junzias system without incident, although they did make that rather unpleasant discovery regarding Kronborg and sent him on his way, so to speak. But now they're in the Junzias system, and they are going to try to sneak down onto the planet Junzias and see what the Tech-Ta are up to. That's coming up in Chapter 6 of Alibi Jones on our next episode of Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. Again, a big thank you to patrons who keep the podcast going. Hope you're enjoying an early episode. And if you want to find out more about patrons and patronage and becoming a patron, just go to patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio. Or go to my sites and look for the link to Patreon. And a heads up, there is a new book out, which is a paperback edition of The Ancient World Around Us. It's a photo book, photos and descriptions by me, yours truly, Mike Luoma. So it's not science fiction, it's more cool places I've been that I'm showing you and telling you a little bit about. It's been available for the Kindle for a couple of years, but I've decided to make it available now as a paperback. We'll see. Just want to let you know what it is in case you see it mentioned somewhere, because it's quasi-new, you know? Well, that is all for this week. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma. Thank you again for listening to Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. This podcast presentation is copyright 2023 by Michael F. Luoma and is protected under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License, CC by NCND 4.0. Music by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his work at incompetech.com. Mike's books are available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook, wherever you find books online. Get links and more details at glowinthedarkradio.com and mikeluoma.com. This has been a presentation of Glow in the Dark Radio.